Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a cool little corner of YouTube where people who like interesting planes and places can explore them together as we travel around the world looking for the best sights and scenery in the landscape that is MSFS. So as you can see, today is going to be a first for us. Not only are we flying a whirlybird for the first time on this channel, but this is almost the first time I've flown one ever. I had fooled around with them in the past, mostly just to see what it was like, but with the traditional yoke and throttles, it was just, I thought it was far too difficult. But now that's changing, slowly. I've got my real helicopter controls now, ordered some Virpil controls for myself for Christmas, got my rig built for them so I can fit myself into it. And we're going to give it a go. And I wanted to, I've been practicing a little bit. I've probably only got maybe 3 or 4 hours in these things now, but I didn't want to just keep waiting forever to post a video while I practice that. So I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride. I can get up in the air and fly it pretty well, but landing is a different story. So feel free to make fun of me if you want to, or just exercise a lot of patience. If any of you guys fly these a lot and you have any advice for landing them after you see how I do it, I'm all ears because I want to get much better at this. The main reason I wanted to figure these things out is because when we fly over these big cities, especially ones like this, which have a lot of stuff to look at and talk about, when you're in a plane and you just zip over it, you really just don't have much time to take it all in. So occasionally we'll take these babies out every now and again when we get to these really, really big cities with all kinds of cool stuff to look at, and we'll just take our time with it, which is what we're going to do today. So today we are in the Big Apple, and graphically it's going to look about as good as I could get it. I have 2 payware add-ons installed. One is the Samscene New York Times pack, which I picked up a while ago while it was on sale. And the other is an RKBRIDGER pack for this area around Newark, New Jersey, which is where we're leaving from. And I also have a freeware add-on installed, actually, for the heliports down around New York City. All of those will be linked in the video description. And we're flying the Mini 500 from Got Friends today of all the helicopters I picked up. And a lot of them were on a very deep discount, the nice ones, in the sim marketplace over the holidays, so I picked those up. I thought this one was the easiest to fly, so that's what we're going to do. And, of course, I do have our American flag livery because we're flying over New York City. As you can see, field of view is awesome and very few controls, easy to start up, not too difficult to fly, so that's what we're rolling with. And we'll just get her fired up here, and I have to lean away from the mic just a second to get to some of these buttons on the other side of the stick. Once that stuff's on, hit the starter, and we're going to wait for these needles to get up in the green, which will just take a few minutes, turn the alternator on, and we will be ready to go. So for the graphics settings, I'm actually below my threshold I usually like to go to. I turned all the clouds off, so those won't be an issue. Turn the wind off, of course, because I don't need to deal with that, in addition to trying to fly this thing. And I have my terrain level of detail at 190, object level of detail at 100. Let's see, the glass effects turned off. So we'll still get a little bit of popping. There's going to be some tiling out in the water, which is going to be there no matter what we put the settings on. We'll have some minor freezing. And these helicopters are no joke when it comes to performance drag either. All of them are. But all in all, it's going to look pretty good. Did I turn the fuel pump on? Let me check that. That helps. I just shut the lid on it. I'll have this flight plan also linked in there, but this is not going to be good if you're taking planes because some of these turns will be way too tight for airplanes. So if you want to load that up in the little NavMap and adjust it a little bit, you can do that as well. And that little helicopter helipad add-on was pretty cool. The one we're going to come into is right off the tip of downtown Manhattan, right along the water, so that's going to be neat. One of the other things I liked about this helicopter that a lot of the others didn't have is this little bullseye thing here, which comes in very handy for landing. And I'll kind of explain how that works if you're not familiar with it once we get a little bit closer to doing that. All right, we're in the green. Turn the alternator on. Get myself nice and comfortable. There's only one seat in this thing, and by the way, when you get to the other helicopters that have 2 seats, it looks to me that you're usually supposed to fly these things on the right-hand side, which is different than airplanes. And I'm not sure why that is, but when we get into those, when we take one of those out, you will see that I'm flying on the left-hand side because all my notes are usually on my left-hand screen, and I would not be able to look out the right-hand window and over at my notes at the same time. So just a heads up there if I don't mention it later. All right, let's do this. So this is Newark International Airport here, and we're going to come down here a little bit just to check out some of these ports, which were also done up. They look terrible. The ports and the bridges around here looked terrible before I got this RKBRIDGER pack. And I bet they're going to look good now. I can already see some of those cranes over there look good. Let's just get ourselves going forward here. Oh yeah, that's nice. And we're probably going to get up to around 100 knots of cruising speed here once we get ourselves all stabilized. Initially when I was flying these, I kept trying to keep an eye on my vertical speed, and a couple of the helicopters do have autopilot, which I feel like would be cheating in these things. The thing I love about these, you're using both feet, both hands all the time, and both thumbs adjusting the trim. Just a real challenge and a lot of fun in my opinion. But trying to watch the vertical speed will drive you absolutely crazy because it's hard to keep that maintained in this thing. We'll get ourselves pretty stabilized here in just a bit. Alright, these two bridges right here is the Arthur Kill Lift Bridge. That first one there is a little train bridge. That was built in 1959, and the Goethals Bridge, which is over there next to it. And that's one of 3 for vehicle traffic coming off and on of Staten Island, which is going to be right here to our left. And the other one is way, way down there at the end of this river. And that one's called the Outer Bridge down there. And we're going to see the third bridge to our left here in just a bit. Alright, let me just take a moment to get myself situated. Well, look at that container ship. How the heck did he squeeze into that bridge? Looks like he might have broke off an anchor or something, wound up over there. That does not seem like it's in the right spot. That is a big ship for that tiny little channel. They better do some dredging to get him in and out. I set the time of day at 8:30 in the morning because it's going to help kind of mask the stuff in the distance, which looks very desolate because the terrain level of detail is so low. Alright, I'm going to try to keep our altitude around between 2,000 and 3,000 will be good. Alright, since I can't use my hand to use my mouse pointer, here's how we're going to do this. That bar on our left, I'm going to call the left bar. The one in the center bar. And this thing, the right-hand bar, and the one in the center, I'll just call the center bar, the horizontal one, because that's how I'm going to point at stuff. Because I cannot use my mouse. Off in the distance there's the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, which looks absolutely beautiful. That was opened in 1964, and it was the longest suspension bridge in the world until 1981 when the UK outdid it. And no, the largest suspension bridge in the world is not in China today, it's somewhere in Turkey. So there's the third bridge. That's the Bayonne Bridge there. And man, look at these neighborhoods down here. Very lifelike. Looks really good. And before this trip, I'd always figured Staten Island, which is one of the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, was a lot bigger than this. The other 4 are, of New York. The other 4 are Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx, which we'll be flying over in that order. But this isn't all that populated. And just ahead on the tip of this island here is where the Staten Island Ferry is. I wanted to come out here and take a look at that. Which is probably the fastest way to get directly to downtown if you're wanting to go there from here, because there's not a direct bridge or tunnel or anything going over there, but they say the ferry ride's about 20 minutes. It's free. And they go in and out every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Alright, we're at 3,000 now. I'm going to come down just a little bit. And one person, one native of Staten Island who was a big part of making that ferry possible was Cornelius Vanderbilt, born in Staten Island. Used to work on his dad's ferrying service back in the early 1800s. Took a $100 loan from his mom. Started his own doggone ferry service. And saved up all his pennies, eventually getting into steamboats, railroads, and becoming one of the richest men in the world. And had for a while one of the biggest mansions in New York City, which no longer exists, unfortunately. But you can still see a lot of his kids' residences up in Newport, Rhode Island. Alright, so there's the ferry terminal down there to our left. And let's see if we got any ferries down there. Look at that bridge over there. Man, that thing is beautiful. You can see that tiling in the water too. That would be there regardless of what we did with the graphic settings, unfortunately. Alright, so it looks like we got 2 ferries there right above our center bar. Right, just above it right there, right next to our left-hand bar. And that baseball field there is called the Staten Island Hospital University baseball field, and I forgot to see who plays there. But it looks like a pretty nice spot, definitely good views from there. Alright, we're going to circle back around a little bit, as you can see by our map down there, because I've got to get a better angle as we come around the city, take a look at the Statue of Liberty and all that stuff. Alright, see that thing right there just above our left bar, sticking up in the air, that little black thing? That's called the Teardrop Memorial. And that was a gift from the Russian people and President Vladimir Putin who I know we're supposed to hate and never say anything good about, but that is a really cool looking memorial. If you look at it from the ground, it looks like the sides of it are big stone, I think it's made out of stone, carved rock, that looks like one of the Twin Towers, like ripped in half with this huge mercury looking teardrop hanging down from the middle of it. You should check that out sometime online. Really, really cool. All right, let's take a look at these ports here. Fantastic. Thank you, RKBRIDGER. I know you watch this channel and you know I'm a huge fan of everything you do. Most of the bridges around downtown are going to look pretty good, and I don't know, those weren't part of the RKBRIDGER pack, so I don't know if Samscene did those up or the Sim just cleaned them up for us. They'll get kind of bad up by LaGuardia again, but we're just going to cruise past that real quick. But if you want to fly around LaGuardia, RKBRIDGER has a pack for that too. Look at those ports over there in the distance. Oh man, they even got a big container ship over there. And he does look like he's in the right spot. So RK, please, I'm begging you again, just do Jacksonville. I'll buy 2 packs just to make it worth your while. Give one to somebody as a gift. Alright, we're going to take a hard turn here to get turned around. Yep, all that looks really nice. Look at those warehouses down there, the neighborhoods. Beautiful. Golf course looks good. Alright, see that square thing with the white line making its way across the water there? That's called Black Tom Island. And back during World War I, that was a huge ammunition depot. And it was infiltrated by some German spies who blew the whole thing up. Blew the whole island up. Blew out a bunch of windows over there in Manhattan. And the blast was so huge that they heard it in Baltimore, 100 miles away. Said if the Richter scale would have been around, it would have registered probably around a 5.5. And there's Lady Liberty. I probably don't need to tell you guys anything about her, but what I didn't know before this flight is that 11-pointed star that she's sitting on used to be an old fort called Fort Wood. It was part of the original harbor defenses. And I did not know that. I thought that was part of the base they built when they made the statue. And there's Ellis Island up there. Entry point for millions of immigrants going up till 1954. They got a big museum down there now. And this is Governor's Island here, and there's 2 forts. The one in the open grassy area there, which looks amazing, is Fort J. And the other one is Castle Williams, which is that little circular thing on that left-hand point. And this place used to be a lot smaller than it is now, but they made all the southern end of it with fill dirt that they mined out when they were building the city's first subway in 1904. And that little tower off the northern end of it there is a ventilation system for the traffic tunnels that run under the river here. So this is the East River running up this side. We'll come down the Hudson on the other side. And here is Brooklyn in front of us. And right on the other side of our center bar right now is the Barclays Center, where the Brooklyn Nets play. And in the sim, it looks white on the roof there, but when we look at the little NavMap satellite image at the end, it has a grassy roof on it, like sod or something. And there's the Freedom Tower, towering 1,800 feet above the city. And that green-topped roof right there, see that little building just below our left bar? Just south of that is Wall Street, named after an actual wall that used to be down there. And there's the Brooklyn Bridge right there, the first one that's coming up here. And the Manhattan Bridge is north of that. And in between the two of them, if you follow the Manhattan Bridge inland, you would wind up in Chinatown to the south of it, and Little Italy to the north of it, where you can probably get some great food if you're into ethnic cuisines. And that area with that vertical grass strip, or horizontal maybe, depending on which way you look at it, running north is the Bowery. And that used to be the low class, working class area of the city, which has really been gentrified along with the rest of the island today. And they got a tenement museum and stuff like that down there. And just north of this next bridge, which is called the Williamsburg Bridge, back on the island of Manhattan, is the Lower East Side. And this is also now a really upscale district. And towards the center of the island, which we really can't see from here, we would find the Flatiron Building in the middle of the Flatiron District. And that Flatiron Building, which I'm sure you've probably recognized, is 22 stories high, built in 1902. And a survey in 2023 said that that is the nation's, the U.S.'s, 4th most loved building. Number 1, of course, was the Empire State Building, at least as of 2023. But that's ancient history now. And the Empire State Building is... well, we can't see it. Let me look out the window. You see it sticking right up there under our left bar? You guys know what that is. You should if it's the most loved building in the U.S. That's 102 floors, 1,400 feet high, and opened in 1931. And the Chrysler Building is just north of our left bar there. See it? That was the arch rival of the guys building the Empire State Building. And when it was opened in 1930, it was the tallest building in the world for 11 months before they opened the Empire State Building. All right, so this long, skinny island here is called Roosevelt Island. And that building on the shore of Manhattan, that white building with a greenish building next to it, is the United Nations headquarters. And we're flying over Queens now to our right. And the Queensboro Bridge going across it. And that bridge does not connect to Roosevelt Island. You cannot get there from that bridge. You have to take that other little bridge to the north to get on there. And just above our center bar right there on the island is a old smallpox hospital. It's just in ruins now. But that's where they were... oh my gosh, look at that. You see there's little gondolas going across the top of the bridge there? They're actually animated too. You see that? I did not know that was there. Well, that's awesome. Huh, look at that smallpox building. You can actually see it. Yeah, it's ruins. It doesn't have a roof on it. But they try to keep any vehicle traffic off this island. You can drive onto parts of it, but they want you to use the mass transit system. All right, this is the Upper East Side, the ritziest part of town, along with the Upper West Side, which is on the other side of Central Park there. And if you want to take some selfies down there, you might come across residents like Martin Scorsese, Bill Murray, Samuel L. Jackson, Paul McCartney, Madonna, Jay-Z and Beyonce, among many others. All owning property down there. I'll tell you more about Central Park and the stuff down there once we come around the other side. And this thing right in front of us is called Randall's Island, which is apparently the place you want to go if you play softball, because there's lots of softball parks down there. Alright, so there's Queens over there, and the Met Stadium is somewhere off in the distance there, and there's LaGuardia Airport and Rikers Island just off the top of our right-hand bar there. The infamous Rikers Island Prison. And it's had quite a few A-list celebrities in that place too. Tupac Shakur was there for a while, Lil Wayne, DMX, Sid Vicious, the guy that shot John Lennon was in there for a while. Man, I bet they had some great rap battles in that place. And up in front of us, home to the world's most famous cheer, the Bronx. And a great place to try it out, Yankee Stadium, which will fly around here in just a bit. You can see it just off to our left there ahead. And that's their newer stadium. I think that one opened in 2009. They built it at Block South, which I'm guessing is where that grassy area is north of it, from where the old stadium was. I never went to a game out here. We used to go to the Mets games when they played in Shea Stadium when I lived in Connecticut, although I was a big Red Sox fan. If you saw our Boston flight, you know that. But they said they built this place almost to the same specs as the old stadium. Just gave it a little bit more spacious atmosphere in there. But we'll take a look at that, see how it looks. This scenery is incredible out here. And I just realized our frame rate counter is still in the top left of my screen, so that'll give you an idea of how we're tracking. It'll probably get back down. I'm not going to restart this flight again. This is like the 6th time I've flown over here, and probably the 50th practicing my landings. But that'll let you know how we're doing with these graphic settings. And if you were wondering what my computer looks like, I got a 3090 in here, 160 RAM plus. I have the highest end processor I could get for a home computer, hand-built everything, so it's pretty stout, short of a 4090, or upgrading the RAM again, which I think has a bit of a diminishing return once you get over the level I've got it now. So there's Yankee Stadium, which looks really nice. I don't know if that was an in-sim mod or part of the Samscene pack, but it looks phenomenal. And once we get over the Hudson here, I'm going to come down some because we don't need to be nearly this high as we're coming in for our approach. That looks superb, just really good. There's the George Washington Bridge there. That was built in 1931. I've crossed that many times. That's where I-95 runs across that thing. And it was originally just one deck, and they built a lower deck in 1961. And it had the longest main span of any bridge in the world until the Golden Gate was opened in 1937. One of these days I'd like to just do a flight from the city here all the way up the Hudson into upstate New York. That would be a pretty neat looking flight, I bet. Yeah, so to stay in the 30s, it looks like we're tickling 30 to 35. Not too bad. If I turn the terrain level of detail up to 220, it would occasionally dip under 30, and it may still do it once we get closer downtown. All right, you see that big thing over there, down there on the left, those athletic fields are? This is Harlem, is going to be up here on our left. We're flying over it right now. This is called Riverbank State Park, and it's built on top of a huge sewer treatment plant. They built that in 1993, but that sewer treatment plant can handle 340 million gallons a day. And I don't know how that stacks up against sewer treatment plants around the world, but that seemed like a lot to me. And City College of New York is going to come into view here in just a minute on our left. I think that's their campus right down there, just underneath our left-hand bar. So this is the Upper West Side, and Hell's Kitchen is just on the south of it. And then, of course, we got Central Park over here. So some things worth looking at in Central Park. Just above, the Guggenheim Museum is down there, which architecturally is an amazing looking place, but it was too small to spot it. And I think this is Columbia University right here, just above our left bar. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I don't think that's the City University. But just south of that lake, which is called the Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy Reservoir, or maybe Kennedy Onassis, on the other side is the Metropolitan Art Museum, and on this side of it, directly across from it, is the Natural History Museum. And off in that far corner on the other side of it, they've got their zoo and the iconic ice skating rink, but I think the trees are going to obscure that, so we probably won't get a good look at it. All right, I'm going to start coming down just a little bit, and I'll drop our collective some to get our speed down. So running right along here, I don't know if we'll be able to see it, is Broadway, which runs the full length of the island, and if you just had to take one road through New York City, I would say take Broadway. It runs down and meets up with 7th Avenue at Times Square, which we won't be able to see because it's tucked down there, Rockefeller Center, just south of the park here. And all those really tall, skinny buildings on the southern end of the park there are all huge luxury residential places. And some of those look like they would just blow right down if a stiff breeze came through. I'm a big fan of tall, skinny things, being one myself, but I don't think I'd have the stomach for being up there. Alright, so we're coming up on the Hell's Kitchen area, and now that I'm thinking about it, I wish I would have looked up why it's called that. One of you New York residents, let me know. I'm sure we've got some of you that have spent some time out here or lived out here. Alright, see this crazy looking stair step thing? It's right in the corner of our two windows right there. See that down on the left? That's called the Mercedes House, and that's another residential place, high-end residential place. But that is really wild looking. Caught my eye when we were going through here before. And on the other side of this cruise ship, let's see, 2 piers over, see that white thing just above our center bar? That is the USS Intrepid. The Fighting Eye, built during World War II, saw tons of action and tons of repairs. It was in dry dock so much they also called it the Dry Eye. And they decommissioned that in 1974, now it's a museum. Alright, in just a second we're going to see Madison Square Garden, right, the round thing right there, just below our left bar, and that's Penn Station just to the right of it. That version of Madison Square Garden has been there since 1968, but it's the third iteration of it. The first one was built in 1879 by P.T. Barnum, and then that one burned down, and then in 1890 all the robber barons of the time got together and built another one. In 1925 they made a boxing arena, and then they opened that place up in 1968, so I guess that's the fourth one. And Penn Station, if you haven't been through there before, handles 600,000 people a day, making it the busiest transportation hub in the Western Hemisphere. All right, down there is the Chelsea District, which is kind of an artsy area. They have a big LGBT community, and they have a big elevated railway, an old spur of one of the train lines that they call the High Line, and that opened in 2009, and it's a big like park now. It looks really cool. And let's see if we can spot Washington Park and NYU. Alright, that big open square right there is Washington Park, and NYU is just south of that. That's their campus. And then Soho is just south of that. which is also a very ritzy area. And the interesting thing about Soho, which I didn't realize because I hadn't spent much time there, I've been to the city probably 6 times, but Soho is a big kind of retail, also artsy area. But the zoning is kind of lagging there. They're really gentrifying that, but they have some areas where they have the really wealthy people living in one area, and then right across the street they'll still have some projects. All right, so we're going to come back around Ellis Island here just to get a better approach to our helipad as I come down some more, and then we'll take a look at Battery Park and Castle Clinton. Also one of the harbor defenses they built while they were building all this other stuff. And they were building all this stuff. Fort Gibson was also another one they had on Ellis Island. Nothing of that's left today. But they were building all that stuff in the early 1800s in preparation for a war they thought was coming, and it did in 1812. But I don't think any of these saw any action during that war. Look at that site. Just beautiful. Verrazano Bridge there in the distance. Alright, so let's start slowing down. I gotta keep coming around here. So there's Battery Park, and Castle Clinton is... Did they model it? Yeah, you can kind of see it there. It looks a little bit low, though. It's that round thing. Alright, so let's start slowing way down. And there's our helipad. Alright, let's see if I can do it. I haven't done it very well yet. I haven't hit any of the marks I was aiming for. And I won't tell you which one I'm aiming for, just so you don't have to critique me too hard in that regard. But let's slow way down. Alright, so that little crosshair thing will show us if we're dead center in the middle. There's going to be a little dot that's going to be there. See it? Once it gets to the dead center, that means that if we just keep hovering straight down, we'll land straight down. So we're heading a little bit forward right now. I don't want to do that, so let's back it up a little bit. And just kind of slowly descend. Ooh, man, look at that cruise liner front. That looks like the QE 2 or 3 or whichever version they're on now. Looks like they got a tall ship over there, too. Got some seagulls flying around underneath us. Hopefully we don't get any of those guys caught in the blades. Alright, sorry guys. Sorry, no commentary. You can imagine I'm wearing workout gloves and socks because my hands and feet start sweating so bad flying this thing. But I love it. Just love it. Alright, if I get anywhere on this thing, I'm going to call that a victory. And I think we're going to do it. And easy, easy, easy. And we're down. Wow. Man, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Okay, let me get this shut down, and then we'll pull over a little NavMap. I'll show you everything that we looked at. Alright, so if you hold on, I gotta lean away from the mic again. Alright, it'll take a while for the blades to wind down. Bet I can hit that rotor brake, but we're going to be looking at a little nav map, so we'll just let it quiet down just a little bit here. Go ahead and turn everything off. Alright, here comes a little nav map. Look at that site, man. That's just beautiful. The birds flying around and everything. I don't know if that's part of the add-on pack as well, but I do have several of the birds packs for the US. I always like seeing those guys fly around. I don't know what it is I like about that, but I don't have any for Europe or anything, I don't think yet. Okay, so here's where we are. And just to show you where Baltimore is, where that blast was, so down around this area is where Baltimore is right here. So that's 100 miles. When Black Tom Island blew up, they heard that thing all the way down here. That's how big that blast was. And you should check, just Google Black Tom and look at what was left of the island after that thing went off. Just a huge crater. All right, so you can see I've got a couple little tracks here from some of my test flights. And here is Newark International, Port Newark, where we took off from. And if you load up this exact flight plan, it's going to start you over here. So select wherever you'd like to leave from if you're not going to leave from that spot. But this was a nice one because it was at least pointing in the right direction. I started up here before and I was pointing that way, so I had to fly all the way around here. It was kind of a pain in the butt. So we came down here to Arthur Kill Lift Bridge, and the other bridge is one of the car track. Look at that. There's that boat that was down there, that gigantic transport ship. And if you're driving around in New York and you ever wonder why they call so many of the rivers kills up here, this one's called the Arthur Kill Lift Bridge. I don't know if that's called the Arthur Kill or not, but some of the road signs you'll see will say, you know, whatever kill or kills. And that is because you probably recall that this was originally a Dutch settlement when they had a big trading hub out here. And this was called New Amsterdam originally. And the Dutch word for rivers is kill. And I know we have some Dutch guys that watch this channel, so let me know if that's what you guys still call those out there today. So there's the Bayonne Bridge there, and then here's the third one that gets you off and on the island. This is the outer bridge right down here. And there's the Verrazano Narrows Bridge there, which looks just absolutely beautiful. And then here was where the ferry terminal is. Let's get a nice close-up look at some of these. Look at these things must just be going in and out constantly. Look at how many different piers they have for them. And it looks like these two were the ones that we saw in the sim. I don't know if it was those two specifically. And then we came over here to these ports, which looked amazing. Oh, look, that looks like the exact same ship in the dry dock. It might be. It looked just like that. Well, wouldn't that be neat? And there's the Teardrop Memorial. Take a look at that thing from the ground. Really cool. Cruise around over here, and here's Black Tom Island. And I'm guessing this wasn't always linked to land over here since it was called an island at some point, but there was nothing left of that thing once that blew up. There's Lady Liberty with Fort Wood down at the bottom of it. And you know, all the times I've been in New York, I never went to the Statue of Liberty. I've never been up there, or even on the island. There's Ellis Island up there, which used to have Fort Gibson on it. And then here is Governor's Island down here. So I'm guessing originally it was probably ended right about here before they started putting all the fill dirt down here to make the rest of this. And for a while, you couldn't get to any part of it down here. It was just a big abandoned thing, and it looks like some of this is still abandoned. But they've converted a lot of it to a park, as you can see today. And it looks like those fields are in pretty good shape, so they must be using it occasionally. But there's Fort J. We did kind of a quick pass over that, but if you want to take a little bit more time, it looks just like that in the sim. Looks absolutely amazing. Castle Williams looks a little bit better because you can see the sides of it. And there's that huge ventilation shaft for the tunnel running underneath the river there. All right, here's Brooklyn over here, and here's what the Barclays Center looks like today. Look at that. You got to get up there and mow the top of it. And they even have Barclays Center written on it, so that's neat. And because I am not a huge professional sports fan, I did not even realize there was a basketball team called the Brooklyn Nets. Just so you know, I'm man enough to admit it. All right, while we're down here, let's look at the financial district. And there's Castle Clinton. Let's take a look at that. We came in, I guess it is kind of low-lying. So maybe that was right. And that's Battery Park there. Here's our helipad that we landed at. And so here's Wall Street. There's that green top building I was talking about. Just south of that is Wall Street running down through there. This is the New York Stock Exchange right here. And then here's the Freedom Tower, this gigantic thing sticking up here. And if you fly over this, you can see, in fact, it also looks just like this. I would bet today that most of this construction stuff isn't still down here. I didn't think the memorial itself really looked all that good. I mean, you can tell what it is because I got the big fountains and everything there, but I didn't think it looked that great. But you have to be right over the top of it to see around the buildings and everything. All right, Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, and here is where Chinatown is, and Little Italy is up here. And all these buildings here are part of the city of New York's government building, so that's like the New York City Supreme Court, and their City Hall and stuff, I think, is down there too. And then here's the Bowery, and this is the the Lower East Side down here. So this was the really, really poor area back when these were tenements and all that. And then we got the Williamsburg Bridge. And is this the one that had the little gondolas going over it? No, that was the one up by Roosevelt Island. Okay, I got to check that out, see if we can see that in the sim. East Village over here, also very, very ritzy area. And here's the Flatiron Building. If you want to try to take a look at it, I bet they've got that modeled in there. So there's where that guy is. This is the Flatiron District right in the center of town here. And here's the UN Building. And there is the, let's see, where's the Empire State? The even market on here. Oh yeah, here it is right here. You can tell by the shadow. There's the Empire State. And it's kind of funny now. These were the two tallest buildings in the world. And nowadays, it's really hard to even see the Chrysler Building amongst the backdrop of the other buildings. This is the New York Public Library, which looks pretty cool. We were a little bit too far away to see that. But that's a big old building, which looks awesome. And there's the UN headquarters right there. And here is Roosevelt Island. And I don't see the little cable cars running across that, or the gondolas, I should say. But that is cool. I'm going to have to see what that's all about. I wonder where they go. I wonder if they go all the way over the river. And there's the little smallpox hospital. Look at that. They had the vaccine available when they built this thing, but because so many of the immigrants were coming over already infected with smallpox, they would move them out here. And they used it as a nursing training facility in the 1920s for folks that were studying at the local colleges for that kind of thing. But that's a neat looking island. All right, so here's the Upper East Side, very ritzy area. And they probably have just as many famous people living over in this area here too. But I gave you some of the list of celebrities. And let's look at Southern Central Park while we're here. There's their zoo. No way in the world you'd be able to see that unless you're right over it. There's where the ice skating rink is, which looks like they're having some kind of little party down there right now. They got a little kids play area over here. We'll get to the other stuff when we get to the other side. Here's Queens over here, and the Met Stadium now, obviously too far away for us to see. I just want to keep calling it Shea Stadium, but it's now called Citi Field, and I think it's not too far from where the original one was. I don't recall exactly where that was, though. You know what that is, LaGuardia, Performance Trainer. And there's Rikers Island. Look how big that place is. Good grief. That's got to be the biggest prison complex we've flown over so far. That is enormous. Holy smokes. And they built that just a few years after they built LaGuardia. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's also a completely filled dirt island there. A lot of these are. And there's Old Randall's Island where you can go play some softball if you want to. And now we're getting up into the Bronx. There's Yankee Stadium, which looked fantastic. So I'm guessing the old stadium was probably up here. I know we got some Yankee fans watching this. I bet that's probably where it was there. They just made a big park out of it. George Washington Bridge, largest span in the world until the Golden Gate was open, and that's Interstate 95 that runs across there. Took a lot of trips across that, going back and forth to Connecticut. And here's where they built that park on top of the sewage treatment plant. Looks like a beautiful place now, doesn't it? Very nice. And then here's the City College of New York. I think we did get that one correct when I was trying to spot that. There's Columbus University. That one's easier to spot because it's got all these green top buildings and that dome right in the middle of it. And here is St. John's Cathedral, which we just flew too past to point it out. But this is the largest in New York. St. Patrick's Cathedral is also here, but that one apparently is a little bit bigger. So that's kind of neat if you want to take a look at that. They probably modeled it well. And then here's the Art Museum over here, and the Natural History Museum is over here. And so this is the Upper West Side. And running all the way down through here, this is Broadway. And again, it runs all the way south through the island. I'll show you where it hooks up with Times Square here in just a minute. But also, I forgot to mention, dang it, it was even in my notes. This is the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, and this is the Juilliard School right here. You probably heard of that before if you're into the performing arts. This is Columbus Circle, and here is 7th Avenue, and that will run down with Broadway to meet up in Times Square. If you guys watch the ball drop, I'll show you where that was. So here's Times Square right here. I've been down there a few times. There's Rockefeller Center, and there's St. Patrick's Cathedral right next to that, which you can tell does look a little bit smaller than St. John's. So there's the little thing where the ball drops right there. See that thing sticking up there? So they're all looking up this way as the countdown goes down. All right, here's the Garment District here, and we've got Madison Square Garden, Penn Station right next to it. And nowadays, they've actually redone this part of Penn Station. They got a new roof on it. It looks really, really cool. And here's that High Line I was talking about. So this is Chelsea down here. And look at this. It's just a big green parkway now, about 1.5 miles long, where you can take a jog or do whatever you want down there. And then cruise down this way to Washington Square Park. And here is NYU's campus here. Portions of it. I think it even goes up into here too. And here's Soho. Financial District again. Just a beautiful area. And then we came on in for our landing. So that's it, guys. Our first helicopter trip. As I get better with those landings, they'll be even more efficient, but that is the way to do these big cities. That was a lot better than just zipping over the top of it. So hope you guys had a great time. You've probably flown over New York City 100 times, maybe even thousands if you've been simming for a while, but maybe, just maybe, you learned something new. I had an absolute blast as always, and I can't wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.